Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode number 9 here in the Systematic Factory in the Oceania cluster. We are in the Packed Snacks update. Took a little bit of work to get everything set up. We went into sandbox mode and added in our story trait building with their new tool that allows you to do that. The downside to that is that when you do enable sandbox mode, it disables your achievements. So I did a little behind the scenes work to reset the flag on our map here, and we are still able to get achievements. Technically it's a little bit of cheating, but I didn't do anything to change the map. I just added in the building we were missing, and so it saves me having to restart the world and go through the first 146 cycles again. So I think it's worthwhile, but I've been trying to figure out the best way to tackle the next part of what I want to do, because I really want to get into some of the stuff with the update in this episode, but there's some things I kind of need to get done first so that we can do the things I want to do. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time and go through some cycles where I just do some cleaning up on the map. And so I'm going to dig out a bunch of the stuff here and just kind of get it all cleared out so we have space to work with and so we have resources. And then I want to get into our oil biome so we can get some oil set up so we can use it to make our first batch of steel and plastics. And that's going to be the goal. So once we get that all set up, we should be good. I also want to get our water situation sorted out a little better. Right now we have, we're running off of this pool, which will last us maybe another 100 cycles, maybe a little longer, but it's not permanent. And so I do have these geysers down here that provide me with polluted water, and I have this really big tank of salt water. So I'm going to get that sorted out. So that we have water coming in that'll last us a lot longer, and then we can be a little more comfortable to jump right into doing our ranching and our fishing stuff that we really want to do. So I'll come back once I have all that done. It's probably going to take 50 to 100 cycles of playing through and just working on cleanup. So we'll be back after that. All right, everybody, it's taken us quite a while, but we've gotten things sorted out around the base. First thing I wanted to point out is that when I did the update, I also added in a new mod. It's called True Tiles. So what it does is it makes it so that tiles take on the texture of what you build with. So these tiles are built with sedimentary rock, so they have this brick texture, and you can see that these are insulated tiles with the same texture. And then like these are cobalt ore mesh tiles, so they take on that cobalt color. They don't change any of the stats for the blocks. They don't change how anything works, but they look a little better. And so I installed it just to try it out and see if we like it. So far I do. I think it's pretty cool. But we're going to start just by showing you some of the changes I made around the base, and then we'll spread out and take a few minutes to show everything we've gotten done. First of all, we just kind of cleaned everything up in here. I still have some more sweeping of things to do and organizing, but we put in mesh tiles everywhere so that we can have gas exchange better. And then if anybody were to have an accident or something in the base, it'll all kind of go down to the bottom. It's working pretty good for now. We have gas is flowing pretty good. We are starting to deal with some higher temperatures because of all this stuff being up here, but we'll get to that very soon. We're still okay for now. We're not really surviving off of crops, so the temperatures can go a little higher without us having any problems. We also finished our super sustainability achievement, and so I threw in 3 coal generators up here. I have them right now outside the base, that way the carbon dioxide works its way down, excuse me, to our collection down at the bottom, and we don't have to deal with the problems from that. Did a little bit of modifying here too, just to get everything set up so that everything's working better now. The water filtration here is now on its own power grid. When I first started, I wanted this to all be self-contained in case I had power issues, but we shouldn't have any more power issues because now we have the coal backup and we have tons and tons of coal from all of our hatchet ranching. Let's see, consumable ore, coal. We have 300 tons so far. So that'll last us a while. Plus, we're going to work into some other new power sources very soon. So I'm not worried about it. So we disconnected that. And then this is running much more sustainably. We're not running out with less power. We're using up our excess hydrogen. I kept having issues where it would short out on power. And so the hydrogen would mix with the oxygen and it was messing up in here, giving me problems. So now I have the hydrogen runs through here and it runs through the filter and then back to our power plant so that we'll never get anything but hydrogen going in. And then I also set it up here so that there's a little bit of extra automation. So the excess hydrogen comes down here, goes into the tank and gets used for power. If we ever get to a situation where we don't need the hydrogen and it backs up to the point where it fills this tank, there's an automation here where the hydrogen goes across this bridge to get into the gas pump. If that gets filled and it blocks it, it then goes this way and goes over this jumper back to it. So basically it'll fill this little loop. And when that happens, this gas pipe element sensor says there's hydrogen in that line. And it tells this, it sends a green signal that overrides the, why is that sending it now? It shouldn't be. Oh, it's saying it now because it needs power. So basically, if we need power or we have too much hydrogen, a green signal will go. And since the green signals override the red signals, even if we don't need power, the green signal will go through and tell this to burn. So if we have too much hydrogen, it'll burn it off. And so we're not infinitely storing it anymore. I'm slowly working on getting this pumped out, and we'll get this to be just filled with hydrogen just for storage, and we don't have to worry about the extra space or the extra hydrogen saved in here. So we can actually reconnect that now. And so what that'll do is, since it's going to the secondary priority, this one will still continue to flow no matter what. And this hydrogen will get emptied out. Let's do it until there's 1,000 grams in here. That way we have some hydrogen left in here. We can clean this up. We still have these little tiny blips of gases. No worries. So that's all good. Everything's working great. Power's sorted. We have no worries for powers now. We can actually expand. We have a little bit more power flowing out, connecting to things, which is good because we're using some extra power and we're going to be using even more. Expanded our power grid so that we have a spine started that goes all the way from the top to the bottom. Speaking of that, we cleared from all the way from here down. I left this ice biome in case I want to use it in a little while. And we came all the way down here, cleared everything out all the way down to here. We also set up these geysers with some automation for pumps. We're finishing them up. They're not quite done on some of these. That's still waiting for more cobalt. I think he's making me some, but we're going to get into doing refined metal in a more advanced way here in just a minute. But this is all cleared up. I left access to these different geysers. Some of them I closed up so that they're closed. I'll get into tapping them when we get to that, but I wanted to be able to get over to them if we needed to. I have a fire pole that goes from the top to the bottom, get us fast access. Then I did this setup. I just have 3 really big tanks, and we have a filter running along the bottom. We're pumping up liquids from the bottom. So we have 2 lines from those different geysers that are dumping off polluted water whenever it's coming in. And then we have one from the filter. Sewer line is being filtered right now. So that's the only thing pretty much going into the filter. And we're pumping polluted water back to our plants. We also have liquids coming from down here. And I wanted to get all of this pushed up higher so that I can clean this area up and make a really big oil biome down here that's going to go all the way up to here. But so I installed what I'm thinking of as like a lock system, because I didn't want to wait for it to all pump out before I could get working up in this area. This spot here is pumping out first. It's going to empty all this salt water out. Then I'll be able to crack into here. Once this one's empties, it'll start emptying this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then this one. They're all set up. They can just pump as we go, no problems. And I can get in here much sooner. And we're going to come in and set up a gas lock here so that we can get in, and like an airlock, and come in through here and come down and crack open this oil biome and get all these geysers running. I'll probably just do a couple at the start, and then later on we'll come back and get it, take an episode where we focus on doing it, and get all of these set up. But for now, I just want to get in here, get some oil flowing so we can use that oil as a heat sink to make some steel. So that's where we're going to go next. This is all in process. It's going to do its thing. I tried really hard to not do anything too advanced off camera because I want to show those things. So this was, I just set up some basic filtration. We've seen that before. I do have plans to do a full water treatment center later on, and we'll do that together. But for now, this is just so that we had some ability to get things flowing. And I have some water treatment going on over here. It's using the salt water first, and then I have a sieve if I need to send polluted water over, but I want to use the salt water since we have a ton of it for our oxygen and base needs for now. So I'm going to get cracking on setting up this airlock and getting in here. Just going to crack open everything and dig it out so that we can hook up one or two of these oil reservoirs with a oil well and start getting some oil processing going so that we can get a big tank full of oil for our steel needs. All right, we've gotten basics for oil and steel production set up. So I didn't do too much as far as advanced stuff. We'll go over all of it when I get into doing more with all of our other oil reservoirs. I basically just set up 3 oil wells that are getting water from a desalination setup, and they're using this water to produce oil, and I let it run for a long time so I can get a bunch of oil, and then I use that oil to process some steel and some other refined metals through the metal refinery. They're getting a lot of heat, but nothing that the oil can't just soak up, so we're fine there. I did preserve a couple of slicksters, hoping that since I didn't dig into their area and left them in there wild, that they'll keep there until I get to them, so that we can set up a slickster farm. As far as carbon dioxide goes, I have a little infinite setup going here. So we're just pumping, we're slowly pumping the gas out of this room. We have a lot of polluted oxygen coming from our water supply too. And we're just getting it all vacuumed out and sent up. I did a little brightness in this room to try to brighten up this dark, gloomy, smoky area. I think it looks kind of cool. That's the mush bar print that you get from the blueprint thing. I have new ones to unlock today. The natural gas from here is going up to just a little basic setup I have with 3 natural gas generators that are running based on the automation if we need them. I don't know why these 2 pipe is blocked. Oh, because I did the piping wrong. That's why. When you do the piping from these natural gas generators, you want them to go up like this into the pipe so that they're not running through each other, because basically this one won't put out any gas because it's blocked by the one coming from there. So we're going to cut here, and cut here. And then once that gets built, it'll work again. So all this carbon dioxide is just pumping down and getting dropped off into our infinite storage. So we'll have tons of carbon dioxide later when we decide to set up a slickster farm. And so that's working. We'll work on this gases later. And then I have some coal plants that I've been putting in up here to also help with our power for the time being, just to get us set up. And so now we have our basic setup. And what we really wanted to do was just get some steel made. I made a bunch more than I really needed to, and some other refined metals and things like that. I will want to do some plastic in a little while so that I can do some other things. But I am going to start looking into the basics that we need to do with our farming here. And the other thing I wanted to do was let this run for a while just to see how things would go. Pacus aren't doing great. They're almost gone. And that's what I expected, because we don't have the seeds to keep them breeding, and the infinite nature of their farm doesn't work anymore. So basically what was changed is the Pacus now have a mood, and when their mood is lower than, I think 4 is what you need to be a positive breeding. I think 3, they'll lay 1 egg in their lifetime. But when they're confined in this tiny little space like this one is, they're miserable, and their reproduction rate goes down 100%. So now, no eggs. And so the ones that stay here, they just stay here until they evolve into Pacu fillets, and then they're gone. Unfortunately. But this was a really overpowered mechanic the way it was before, so I'm glad that they did something about it. We'll have to change it up. The problem down here is that these guys also, their mood is causing issues, because if this farm is full and you have 4 in each of these, then there's not enough water space for the Pacus to be bred. So basically we need to keep the Pacus happy so that they'll keep giving us eggs, and then we can use those eggs to produce more Pacus that'll keep the farm going. So this setup will basically work, except that before we had 4 Pacus in here, and they were fine because this room is larger than 8, which kept them happy. They weren't confined, and there was enough water that all 4 of them felt like they had enough water, because they didn't detect the other Pacus in the other ponds. Now they will. So if I want to keep this the same, these 4 in here need to have a separation from the other water, and there needs to be 32 spaces of water to keep those 4 happy. Or if I'm going to keep them in a combined pond like this, I need to have enough for all 12 of them, which would be 96 tiles of water. And we have 63 right now. So if I extended this farm down and added some water in it, that might work. So I think that's the first thing I'm going to try to see if it works. But we need to get our reed farm back up and running. Right now we were having some issues with water getting mixed into our source here, so we were cleaning that up. Basically we broke into the ice biome to put in these plants. The way the water works now is salt gets dropped in here, polluted water in here, clean water in here, and then I make more clean water by desalinating the salt water first, and then if this were to run out, then it would start cleaning water into sieves to produce water. So basically we keep the clean water set up, and then there's a pipe that goes up here and all the way down and keeps this area stocked with water, so that we have a good solid supply of water for our electrolyzer in our base. Pretty simple setup, nothing too fancy. I'll do something fancier later, but what we need to do is, now that that is done, we can remove this wall so that the polluted water will flow back down. I did set up these to produce polluted water up to our polluted water tank. Let me make sure this one's finished too. But this one is still, oh, it's active now. Oh, this is pumping because it's turned on. Let's turn that off so this can fill up, and then we'll close this one in so that we can start doing that. So we have polluted water coming in from those sources. I don't know if it's going to be enough to keep our crops going, but right now all the polluted water that we have is going towards them. I need to change this line right now. I have it going out here. I redirected it so that it went up so it could sort the water out. We can turn it back on, so now the polluted water will get pumped back to our plants. But we have so little of it, and we need to get more. Part of that is that we'll get more when we filter out all this water and get the polluted water going. Part part of that is just have to get a buildup from these. Between the three of these, this is 2,700. This one is 1,500, and this one is 1,200. So that's 5,700 total average output. So if we do a little math with that, I'm not going to try to do complicated math while I am talking. There it is. So 5,700 is what we get as far as our average output of water. And each of these thimble reeds uses 160 kilograms per cycle. So what is the math on these? So these are, average output is per second. If it's 5,700 grams per second, and there's 600 seconds in a cycle, and these use 160 kilograms per cycle, that means we can support 21 of these off of the water coming from those. And we have 17 here. So we should end up with a net positive of polluted water. Plus we'll have the polluted water coming from our bathrooms, which isn't much, but it'll be a little bit. So we can keep 21 of these going. The issue is, as far as the seeds go, these only have a 10% chance of getting more seeds from our reed fibers. So if we're running 21 of them, that means we'll get one extra seed or two extra seeds a day, realistically. Pacus eat, when it comes to seeds, they will eat 1 kilogram per cycle, which means they're going to eat one per cycle. So if I'm doing my math correctly, that means that if I want to run 12 paku in here, we're going to need to have 240 reed fiber plants running. So we may need to look and see what better options we have to get seeds or something else to feed our paku to set up a paku farm. And so that's something I'm going to have to do a little more testing on. Fortunately, for the time being, our hatches are working just fine. Our hatches have a mood that is happy because we already have enough space for them. They're getting fed sedimentary rock. I still have, as far as sedimentary rock goes, I have 1.6 thousand tons left. So we can keep them going for a while and keep getting barbecue from them. And they're keeping our colony fed. There are some things we can do with the new update in order to increase their happiness, which means that we would be able to fit more into the farms. So basically, if we I don't have the research, so I can't show it right now, but there is a new building that allows you to feed them brackine through a bottle, and that will increase their happiness by 5. And then there's another building that they can run around in that will increase their happiness by 1. And so if we can do that, we can get their happiness from where it is right now at 4. We can bump it all the way up to 10. And that means that they would you'd be able to have, instead of 7 hatches in each of these ranches, would be able to fit 12, because the extra happiness allows them to deal with overcrowding better. So we could increase the amount that we get in this farm. But honestly, I don't know that that's really worth it, because it makes it more space efficient. But if we want more hatches, we can just build more farms. So that's something to consider. But what I really want to get into is getting our food preserved in a kitchen where we can set it up to use the dehydrator and the rehydrator. And that way we can do that. In order to do that, though, we need to get a food that is worthy of doing that. So surf and turf was my original idea because I wanted to take the hatches and get barbecue and pacus to get cooked seafood, and I'd be able to get surf and turf and then dehydrate that and rehydrate it on demand. It's going to be a challenge because getting more pacus, we're not quite sure how to do that yet. So I'm going to take some time and figure that one out, and then we'll come back and we'll build something together to get our food sorted for a little while longer. Played around with the mechanics for our farms a little bit in my test world, and just wasn't super happy with anything. Big thing is that I don't think the thimbleweed seeds are ever going to be enough to feed our fish, because we would need to plant so many of them to get enough seeds to keep up with what we want to do. We do, however, have a lot of algae left, and I switched over to algae so that we could feed fish, and we can look for a way to make renewable algae after we get this done. This amount of algae, if we look at our paku, when they eat algae, they eat 7.5 kilograms per cycle. And so if I have, let's say 16 paku at 7.5 kilograms per cycle, that means they eat 120 kilograms a cycle. I have 96 tons left, which is 19,000 kilograms. And that gives us 161 cycles to figure out a way to renew our algae. Assuming I did the math right, which is a big if. So what I did that, and now what I'm doing is I am moving our farm down here. I'm removing some of our thimbleweeds. I'm putting in the space to have the farms the size I want. So basically what I'm doing is I'm doing these 3 wide cells that are going to be up to this level where the sedimentary rock layer ends, which means each one of them will have 33 cells of water in them. And then I'll build a similar setup to this on top of it and move everything down. But first we just got to get it built and get water put into it. So I'm going to do that, and then once we start moving this mechanism down, we'll come back. This episode's going to be a little longer. It took me a while to get everything set up for the earlier stuff I did, and I want to spend some time on the critter mechanics. So we're going to go a little long today, and I think that'll be okay. So I'll be back once I get the moving of all this done and get things set up so that we're ready to put our farms in place. All right, I've got the first section here filled in, and I got water put into it. I'm going to start figuring out how to move this down to make this system work in the space we have down here. So eventually my goal is to still have this set up so that the fish feeder's here, and then the critter sensor is in there to open up the door above it, and we'll move all of this down to the bottom so that we can continue to use the system where the auto sweepers bring the eggs up. We'll just have it in a new position. I did decide in the end I'm going to make this a little wider instead of making it 3 wide, because I want to be able to put in our new fort building, which I have not researched yet, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But before we do, let's get everything else set up. So we're going to need to have our fish feeder, just like we have up here. We're going to want to have a little more space, I think, for them to move around this time than we did before. I need to leave 3 spaces tall. Do it. So let's put this level here. And then this will just be extra water space at the bottom for us to go in and to make the farm big enough. But I will still want to limit the movement of the paku, both for lag purposes and because I want to be able to control where they drop polluted dirt and things like that. So once the fish feeder's in, the next thing I would need to work on is the auto sweeper. And where we want to put our ladder. So let's put the ladder down this side. That way if we need to get in there, we can. So once we have the auto sweeper and everything set up, we should not have any issues where we need to get into the farm at all, but it's always good to plan for the future. So we're going to leave space down here at the bottom for the fort building, which is going to be a 3x3, which means that I can do, if I remove this ladder, I'll be able to put the auto sweeper across like this. And then trying to think what else we'll need to do. We'll have to have a spot above where they'll be able to drop in, so that we can put that right here where this door is. So we can put in this spot. Which means that we can put a critter sensor underneath that and connect it up. Let's remove this building a while. We'll still be able to get down there. That won't be a problem. We can remove this. If I remove this, it'll close that door, so I won't have any Pacus landing on my head while we're working. Okay. So now, if we set this, let's copy the setting from here. And for now, we'll just suppress the current notification on that. This we're going to set up to be food for algae. They should be able to grab the algae that was in the other one. We're all set. We'll have to get power in for that wire. I think I'll do the power once I have everything else in. So then we'll have more in like that. Okay, these guys aren't able to get back out. I was wrong. Put a ladder there. Beth to the rescue. Okay, everybody can get out now. So we'll get those put in, and then we're gonna get this removed. Let's remove this, and we'll put a ladder down for the next room. I'll get everything built for this first one, and then we'll work on the next ones. The other reason I shifted this a little bit is because of this volcano. Wish I could get rid of this. Maybe down the road when I have some more extreme things, I'll melt it. Just to make sure we're able to get across, we'll put a mesh tile here. We can actually do it here and here. That'll be fine. Which means we can get rid of this ladder. As far as our... Let's put that there and see if this will reach it. Right now it does, but if we put the mesh tiles in, they might not be able to. If that's an issue, then we'll just use a ladder, but I want to see if it'll reach through that gap. Okay, that is going to be an issue. Let's remove this one. I don't want to put the loader down here because in the future I'm going to put that building in this spot, so it won't be able to fit there. So I'm trying to get prepared for the future. So now if that's out, this will be fine. Let's copy all the settings from here. So now all we need to do to finish out this room is to do a power. So we'll come in like this. We'll power that door too. And that's where our power is going to come from. Then we need to get rid of these ladders. And then we can put in more bricks here. And we'll put in a door. Oh, I think I built that out of the wrong middle. Cobalt will be fine. I don't want to use lead for that. Or maybe maybe I had copper. And lead was the power wire. It's whatever. Let's get that built, and then we will move this little guy into his new home. Last thing we need to do is a shipping rail from here. And I think I'm going to go across like this to keep it up and out of view. So the big question is, this can reach to the whole room. So any eggs will get picked up by the auto sweeper. Any polluted dirt will get picked up by the auto sweeper. This can reach down so our Pacu buddy will be able to reach in and... Why are you unable to be moved to there? Can we not reach that? I don't know, people are queued up for it. It says unreachable move, but I think they can get to it just fine. We'll see. Okay, so we need to get the door put in. We need to get the shipping stuff put in. We'll get that down. And like I said, we'll get him moved in. Now we have our basic design for this. So this has 43 tiles of water. So we can support... so we could support 5 Pacu in here. So let's increase that, see if that works out. But that means with 5, we could have 15 Pacu in these 3 farms, which means since they lay an egg basically every other cycle, that'll be 30. Or no. If there's 15 of them and they lay an egg every other cycle, it'll be 7.5 eggs per cycle. Which means in the end, that would be 12,000 calories of cooked seafood each day from this farm. Which is pretty solid. If we have 15 Pacu eating algae, they're going to eat 112.5 kilograms of algae per cycle. And I have 96.5 tons times 2,000 kilograms. Or no, I'm sorry, times 1,000 kilograms. So 96,500 total. $96,500 divided by 112.5. That's actually enough algae to last 857 cycles. I thought I had done the math wrong when I did it earlier. So that's not going to be a problem for a while. Will give us some time to come up with renewable algae. We can create algae from slime, and slime can be renewable through puffed farming if we want to go that route. We can also get it from space. We also have a lot more that we can convert here. I have another 25.8 tons of slime that I can refine into algae. And we have a lot more map to go. So we have the time to figure out how we want to make this into a renewable farm. I really like the idea of setting it up using the new mechanics of keeping the critters happy and giving them the space they need, because the infinite farm always kind of felt like a cheat. And always was like, well, how long until they patch it? Now that they finally did, I'd like to design a farm that will continue working even if they make changes. So, okay, now we just need to get that Pacu in there. I'm going to get this one repeated 3 more times across, and then we will work on getting the new mechanism up top. Farm is now set up and working good. We have eggs in motion. I just kind of shifted everything down over here on top, made some adjustments. This is where the top tropical fry and the gulp fries land now, and they'll fall down into here. They're still separated from this main room, so it's all good. And they are just there because that's where I want to hold them. Once they reach the age of 25, they'll turn into Pacu fillets, and they'll get picked up and shifted over here and dropped off in here. Everything is now dropped off right here from everywhere. So we look at our shipping, this all comes down here, these all come right to here, and then this one takes the fry eggs up, and this one takes the other eggs up, but everything else just stays right here, which means our duplicates only ever have to come to here to pick up things, and in here to fill up algae when we use it. We've been running for a few cycles. We've only used 0.4 of a ton, so we don't have forever for our algae, but we have a little while. I have some water being pumped in to fill these tanks up, and I just have some simple automation. This vent will shut off when this hits to 500 kilograms, and it'll fill the tank up, because I know if I try to fill it up without some kind of automation to stop it, it's just going to overfill. And then I have an airflow tile here, so that as it gets pushed up, it'll push the air in here, and then I can just switch it out with reverse tile and delete that carbon dioxide. I just don't want to have an air bubble somewhere in the farm. So this is going to run for a while and fill up with water while we continue to have our egg production. All of our pacus inside this farm are producing eggs at 67% per cycle. So once we have 15 of them in there, we'll get approximately 8 eggs per cycle from them. So in the end, once they start hatching, we'll get a decent amount of food. It'll be like a little over 12,000 calories of food from this farm at the expense of the algae. And then, like I said, in the future, we'll have to come up with a more permanent solution to produce algae, but that will be another project. The last thing I want to do in this episode is up here. I have started to tap into this natural gas geyser. I want to utilize that to run a line down to our base, and then I'm going to put in, assuming that I have researched it yet. Oh, I have not yet. So I need to get research, and I'm going to put in a gas range so that we can start turning our cooked seafood and barbecue combo into surf and turf. Get a little extra out of our food and prepare for the future once we finish our research to do our food dehydration and rehydration, which is what we're going to work on in our next episode. So actually, since I have to do the research, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it here. We're already over 40 minutes, and we now have fish back on track. So fish is back on the menu for our duplicates, and like I said, our hatches are still running just fine. We have plenty of food for them in the form of sedimentary rock for now, and this will get us through another couple hundred cycles, and we can work on finding ways to make them all renewable in the future. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.